herkese. Hi everyone. Bugün Vanya'yla bir live chatimiz olacak. Vanya gerçekten çok kıymetli. Amerika'da bizim çok kıymet verdiğimiz, bize çok kıymet veren, çok samimi, özellikle insan hakları konusunda çok aktif birisi. Bir saniye, bana mesaj atıyor nasıl bağlanayım diye. Okay, to my Instagram. Yes, first yorum. Bilerek biraz erken başlattım çünkü ilk kez Instagram'da aktif böyle bir şey yapacak. Hemen o bağlantı kısımlarını hızlıca geçelim diye. Hey Vanya, when you're here, please let me know. Yes, you're here. I knew you would do that very quickly, very easily. So I'll send a request to you, Vanya. You'll get it and you'll accept. Oh my God. You're the best.
I did it.
You did it, girl. I knew you would do it.
I wasn't so sure.
No, I was. So everything's fine. You're all set.
Okay. I don't have to do anything else?
And no.
Okay.
We just need you, okay? And you're there. That's it, girl. You look beautiful as usual, and the flowers just behind you.
Yeah, you like my little prop?
You complete each other. Great.
You're funny.
So how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Let's say I'm doing well. Alhamdulillah.
Are you?
Yeah.
It is that time.
Yeah. You know, it's not that good to be at home all the time and the other things.
Yeah, that's right.
Somebody says that I'm so regretful that I didn't learn English, but you can. Don't give up. Don't give up on yourself.
Never
so,
give up.
Vanya, most of the people, no, I'm sure that maybe all of the people that watch us right now are Turkish people.
Mm-hmm.
They either know English very well or are trying to learn it. So we're gonna do our best to, address them. I know you're used to that. So who is Vonya Womack? I know it's a huge story, but yeah, we can zip it.
So you're going to ask me questions, is that right?
Yes, if it's fine with you, I'm gonna ask you questions. They're
can
not
ask me
hard
anything
ones. So, can you please let me just say something in Turkish to make sure that okay.
Yeah,
Şimdi
go ahead.
Vanya bizim Türk göçmen kadınları ile ilgili yoğun çalışıyor. Türkiye'deki insan hakları ihlalleriyle ilgili yoğun çalışıyor. Zaten bahsedecek şimdi. Özellikle Yunanistan'daki ve Almanya'daki kamplardaki Türk kadınları üzerine gidip ziyaret ederek onlarla mülakatlar yaparak da yoğun bir şeyin içine girdi araştırmanın. Bugün bir kısmına değineceğiz ama asıl cumartesi günü onunla bir panelimiz var. Orada o detaylı bahsedecek çalışmalarından. Bugün biraz daha onun farklı alanlarda da yaptıklarından bahsedeceğiz. Okay? Do you understand, Maya?
I got it. I got it all.
I know.
I got all of that.
So, okay. I mean, your educational and professional background in a very brief, in a nutshell, I mean, could you please talk about this first?
Sure. Well, I started off working in nonprofit, right out of undergrad, and then I eventually moved into the banking area, worked for a bank for a little bit, and then from there I went into the pharmaceutical industry, and so I worked in the pharmaceutical industry for almost 15 years.
Oh my God, 15 years.
Yeah, for a long time. So I started off in sales, which I loved because I was able to work with people, we lived in Michigan at that time. So I did sales for urology, and then I came inside into corporate headquarters, which is now where I live here, and I was a trainer, so I was a teacher. And then from there I went into marketing, and I pretty much spent the rest of that time in marketing and communications. And so after that, this would have been like 2007, 2008, when the economy tanked here. Right, I had left Merck and I went to another biotech company, which is actually out of Switzerland. and they ended up getting bought out by another company. I ended up leaving, and I ended up in academia. And yeah, what's really strange about that is that my parents are both academics. So my dad is a professor, my mom was a teacher. And so I knew that lifestyle a little bit, you know, from growing up in that. And I also loved the teaching aspect that I did when I was in the pharmaceutical industry. So when I was asked to teach a class, I went ahead and taught, and then I never left. And I stayed there until recently. So the next journey for me is I actually resigned, and I'm going to be doing human rights activist work full time. So I'm really excited about that.
Excellent. I know you are the person for that cause. I know that you're a great teacher. You're a great, you know, activist, and you're gonna merge all of them all together, and that's a great move. I know. So, Vonya, could you please talk about a little bit this human rights program that you started in the university?
Okay, so when I was at the university, I was the director of the Center for Global Learning. So I was creating programs for university students there, study abroad programs, also bringing in different speakers. And I was very, very fortunate to bring in some speakers all around the issue that's happening in Turkey. And this started also with a great contact of mine that was helping me about 3 years ago. Was when it first started. And so from there, I started to talk more about what was happening in Turkey. And so I was familiar with some things. I had spent time in Libya in 2012 after the Arab Spring, during the revolution, right after the revolution, literally almost not quite a year. And I was really looking at women and at women protesting and at human rights issues. And it kind of evolved from that, I think. Also, the fact that I studied in the Middle East when I was in college, and I spent a little bit of time in Turkey as well. So when I was hearing these things, I started to learn more about what was happening. And I was thinking in my head that people don't know this. People don't know what's happening. And it's important that people, you know, that know this, that we keep this alive. And so I started thinking, what is the best way to do this? And so in my experience, I was able to go to Germany and visit lovely people in Germany. And they were fantastic. They really helped me to understand through their stories of how they ended up getting to Germany after the coup, or in some instances right before the coup. And then as well in Greece. So I've been to Greece now twice, and I've been able to meet beautiful people there. In fact, I have 2 grandkids in Greece. You probably didn't know that, did you?
Grandkids? Oh my God.
They call me grandma, and I just love them to death. But so through this, I've been collecting people's stories. So it was really important for me that when I went to Greece and when I went to Germany, that I heard these stories and I was able to preserve these stories. So what I'm doing right now is I'm working on a book, so keep your fingers crossed, which is more of a novel that tells the story of someone that's coming, you know, over to Greece from Turkey, what's happening there, coming to Greece, and then through her eyes, telling the stories of other people that are coming. And so
this book is kind of a narrative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
cool.
It's a collection of stories, but it's more of a narrative, and it's more of a novel. So that's what I'm working on right now, and I'm hoping to have that proposal here done soon.
Cool.
And then in regards to Refugees Unknown, Stories Untold, I am really hoping to get back to Greece to help to create some things for women there. For me, I'm got the business background, so working more on the business side of getting things up and running, because there are just wonderful people that are in Greece, highly talented, you know, people that have come over that are teachers, that are counselors, that are, you know, doctors and physicians, and that they can do all of that. It's just a matter of trying to pull those things together to help with the trauma.
The hard part, but I know that you will do it. Yeah, you will rock. Can I chime in with a few Turkish sentences?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Şimdi Vanya birkaç kez az önce bahsettiğim gibi Yunanistan'daki ve Almanya'daki kamplardaki bizim Türk refugee arkadaşlar özellikle kadınlar üzerine yoğunlaşarak ziyaret edip onlarla mülakatlar yaptı ve bir kitap yayınlayacak. Bir roman şeklinde onların hikayelerinden derleyerek. Ayrıca business background'u olan birisi olarak da müthiş bir proje üzerine çalışıyor. Şimdi ben onu açıklamak istemiyorum. O zaten onu biraz olgunlaştırdıktan sonra paylaşacak. Bir de cumartesi bir panelimiz var bizim orada. Panelist orada da bahsedecek. O yüzden oraya bırakmak istiyorum ama yani canavar gibi bir projeyle geliyor. Yeah, it's your turn baby.
My turn.
Maya, do you
Yes.
remember how we met?
We met at a restaurant.
A restaurant, come on, Maya.
We met at a restaurant in King of Prussia, didn't we? At the True Food place?
No,
With Usami? Before that?
Before that. So yeah, remember the panels that we went together in New York, the United Nations CSW? You were there, right? It was before that.
Was it before that?
Yeah, it's almost 2 years.
Oh my goodness. See, that's why I can't remember anything. I have to write everything down, Hafsa.
You have to, yeah. Especially the part about me, okay?
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Yes. I miss you. I wish I could see you.
Yeah, I miss you too, but you know what? I'm gonna go disobey the rules.
Okay.
You'll see me soon, okay? You'll see me soon.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah, go ahead, please. So you went and visited the Turkish refugee women in Germany and Greece, and I know that you have a great project in your mind. We don't talk about that yet because you're still, trying to get much more deeper in your the details of the project. So, and I wanna hear more about the women in Libya and your experiences, your observations there. Why did you go there, and how were the women there? Could you please, give your remarks about the experiences of Libya women there?
Yeah, sure. So I was approached to go over and do some training, some leadership training, and this was for the transitional council that had been put in place. So you had the revolution that happened, in February, I think February 15th of 2011. And then so I would have gone there then in January of 2012. So that's not that long.
Yes.
After the revolution. And it was really interesting to me that in Benghazi, where the protests really started, it was really a lot of women that were starting that and calling everybody else, their sons and their, husbands and things like, come on, where are you?
What made them such, courageous? What do you think? Because, in that cultures, women are known, not like this, but yeah. What's your idea about that?
I think if I look back on it, Benghazi is an area where you have a lot of highly educated women and people. Tripoli, yes, but Benghazi is really, with their universities, they're really known, for, I don't know, a lot more intellectuals kind of settled within that area. A lot of people that at one point during their life, when Gaddafi had kind of opened things up, had studied outside in the UK or in the US. So they were a little bit more knowledgeable about, democratic freedom, for example.
Knowledgeable and also outspoken, I guess.
What's that?
Outspoken.
Yes, more outspoken, exactly. And so I think that it kind of came to a point that during that protest that started to happen, when the government came in and started using snipers and started using water guns and really starting, where people died, then you started to see, because of these women that stayed there protesting, all of a sudden, all these other women started just kind of coming out of the woodwork. And so I think it was more of a, it's kind of like the bandwagon theory, right? You have some people that are doing it, and then a campaign. It's like your first follower is the most important person, right? Somebody goes out and does it. The next person that does it, it's like calling to everybody else, like, come on. And I think that created this kind of atmosphere for those women that we can do this. And another thing that is interesting is that if you take that time, that beginning time of those protests, until the time of when Salwa Bugegis was murdered. And people might not know who she is, but she was a human rights activist and a lawyer in Benghazi. And she was really the start of this transitional council. So the transitional council happened when Gaddafi, was gone. So they tried to pull in people from different tribes to participate on this transitional council in order to get an elective government in place. And so she took a large role in starting that.
Of course. And then she was murdered, huh?
Right. Along with her sister, Iman, who was a professor at the university, who I got to know very well. And, in doing that, you started to see afterwards more women start to activate, or be more activists, I mean, and stand up or do things that were a little bit out of the norm. Like when Salwa was actually murdered, she came back right before the election. Someone, I guess, had tried to take her son, kidnap her son. And so they took her son to Jordan, and she came back into Benghazi to be able to vote, because she wanted to vote, to show people, listen, you need, go out and vote. I'm going to vote, go out and vote. And she was murdered in her home, which was a big tragedy for Libya in general.
Absolutely.
She was an outstanding person. And so when that
she
happened,
was murdered, but she started off something big, right?
Yeah, exactly. And what happened then is, like, during her funeral, one of the things that I noticed is the women walked with her, where normally the women go to the gravesite.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You saw the women, like, broke with tradition, and they, like, kind of, use that in a sense as a protest. In a
breaking
way,
the boundaries or resisting, whatever you say.
But I saw women make the decisions to, to rise up and to kind of come out of something that was not, or come into something that wasn't very known to them. And I was just real fascinated by that. So I wrote an article, and I had presented a couple articles. I had presented at a couple places in regards to that. And then one of the other things I did is I looked at that conflict in Libya and then looked at the conflict in Ireland.
I would love to read them.
And then
send them
they're
to
out
me.
there.
Okay, please send me the links. Okay,
I can do that.
Okay.
But kind of looking at those conflicts, and then looking at how, because Ireland came to, more peace. So what does that look like with other things around the world? But that's where I would say that I really initially started getting really interested in women that were in conflict zones or conflict areas. And then, of course,
do you draw a line between these women and Turkish women and the opportunities coming out of crisis? Do you understand what I mean?
I think so. Yeah. So I think the one thing that's different is that the women in Benghazi and in Libya that stood up, they weren't necessarily being persecuted, right? So they weren't having to hide or being fearful of their lives or being fearful necessarily of being put in prison. But they were.
What they did was, I'm trying to make sure, what they did was, to resist the ongoing regime or the injustice, but they were not necessarily affected by the persecution, I guess.
Right. But they do have, like, experience with persecution in a different way. So, like, for example, when I was in the university, I went and spoke at Benghazi University, and I met professors who showed me, like, on their legs where they had drills, screws put in, because they were teaching things that the government didn't necessarily want them to teach. Yeah. I like saw those things. Right.
Oh my God.
And for women at the university, I mean, they had to be very, very careful as well, So there was that, when I look at fear, there was a sense of fear, but that sense of fear, I think, is something that they had known for a long time. Yeah. And so the women in Turkey, to me, from what I understand, is that this is something that it started to boil, and then it just kind of exploded. But you didn't live as a young child being fearful
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, of things. So I think that I would say that that is kind of the difference. And the difference now too, in Libya, there was a vacuum that happened, right? There was this empty space. And because of failed elections and things like that, you had groups come in that, you know, it hasn't worked for them, which is really unfortunate. But in Turkey, I wish I could go and like spend time with people there. I mean, I was
On
in
the
Turkey
ground.
twice. Yeah, on the ground. I was in Turkey twice, but quite a while. Like I think the last time was 2012. Yeah, because the other time was before that.
Just before, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a long time, but you know, I envision things in my mind. I can remember Istanbul. You know, I can remember what the streets look like and different things, the people, you know. So when I was meeting with people in Germany and I met with people in Greece, I understood a little bit more about their surroundings from where they came from and the injustice then that has happened with a group of people that I see as some of the most humble, gentle people that I have ever known, Hasfa. I told the people, the women in Greece, I said, you guys teach people things that you don't know that you teach people.
Unconsciously.
You know?
I know. I feel the same way, right?
Yes, just very, very gentle and very humble and very giving. And so to see a group of people that are persecuted, you know, for their beliefs or for the thought that they have done, you know, something. I mean, this whole thing about calling a preschool teacher a terrorist, that got to me too. And I said, well, how can that even happen? You know? And when I met young people, for example, I met a whole bunch of young girls the last time I was in Greece. And, you know, they weren't married. They were probably, I think they were between probably 18 and 21, maybe. And all of them have had to leave, had to flee. Some of them going through the Balkans and you know, being abused and different things through the Balkans, and other of them coming across the sea or across the river, all by themselves. And to see that because they were a dorm supervisor or they were a teacher, you know, which is most of them, I think that I remember, those were kind of the roles that they had to live life like they're living now isn't okay. You know, it's not okay, not just here, but it's not okay anywhere in the world. I mean, everyone needs to be treated with dignity. And when you're not treated with dignity, I think that there has to be people that make noise about that. So I said, you know what? I realized that the people in Greece and the women in Germany couldn't use their voice. They were fearful to use your voice. You're a little bit different.
Thank you. So
you're different. But they're afraid to use their voice, you know?
Why? Why do you think they are afraid?
Because well, what they told me was because I have family. You know?
Yeah.
I have family. I don't want them to know, you know, where I am. I don't want my picture taken. I don't want you know.
It's understandable, Vonya.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So if I can help to be a voice for that, then that's what I want to do. So I'm trying. And if there's anything I can do or can do things better, then I want, you know, people to make sure that they know to tell me.
You're doing a lot. You're doing a lot. You cannot imagine how big what you're doing, you know, for those women, for those people. And I am wondering what were the things or what are the things that strengthen those women that you met? I mean, you are talking about the vulnerable people or somehow people in traumatic periods, but there are things that I'm sure that you observed that strengthen them in these weak times.
Yeah, yeah.
What were your observations?
You know, you want me to talk about Libya or you want me to talk about Germany?
Both.
Or both?
Yeah.
Let me see. I mean, in Libya, I think that you saw women come out of kind of university settings a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure why, but that I tend to remember that. And then for them to be able to work with young people, I think gave them some kind of empowerment. And I think empowerment is really important.
Me. Yes,
is that you?
Very important, Maya, because when you see the future of these, you know, world and the future generations, you feel that you have to do something for them that empowers you.
Yeah.
That's
So
important.
I think I noticed that. And then the other thing that I notice of women, for example, in Greece. So in Greece, I noticed more women had kind of recently come that I met, and so the fear and the trauma was still extremely heightened. And when I saw other women that have been in Athens, for example, for a while, that were helping, they would come together and they would meet. And I remember one time I was in an apartment and the women were like scraping potatoes. I was playing with the kids, but they were scraping potatoes and they were, you know, working in the kitchen. But at the same time, they were working to help a new group of women that were coming. And I knew that. I mean,
even if they are always newcomers, they behave like, you know, the residents for a long while and, you know, welcoming the newcomers, kind of a, you know, cycle, but a very productive one. And solidarity.
So I think like being involved in those kinds of things gives you empowerment, because you're helping others. You're able to use the skills that you have. And so that's one of the reasons where I think, you know, having a trauma center or whatever you want to call it in Athens would be really important, because those women that have been in Athens for a long time or have decided that they're going to stay there, they have all those skills to be able to help those new people, you know, coming in. And so I think that's really important, because especially if once things if you're settled a little bit more in Greece, then you're also able to help the other refugees that are there.
You know what? We're going to talk about this on Saturday in the panel, but, you know, Greece has really different dynamics than other places, other resettlements, because it's kind of a transition place and people do not feel belonging to that, and that makes things harder, tougher. And that what you are planning to do there in Greece, in Athens, is really important for that sense, I guess.
No, I agree. It's definitely a transition place. You know, I started to wonder when things started to shut down more in Europe, right? It makes it even more difficult for people to get over. And so sometimes it's also being able to provide those kinds of skills that if you are going to be in a place for a longer period of time than you think, you know, what are some of the things that you could do to, you know, make money or, you know, to come together. And it's the other thing, Hasfa, is this communal trauma. You ever heard of that, communal trauma? So you've got a group of, I'll just say, use women in general, that in Greece, for example, that have really, they band together. And so even though they don't tell necessarily their personal stories to each other, that did surprise me. That was one thing where I would be in a home, for example, and they would be telling me their stories, but not everybody knew, but they lived together. So that also shows that, you know, there's a lot of holding in and a lot of fear about just even talking about it. But that whole kind of group atmosphere, I think, is important too. So for women to be able to kind of pull together, to come together, I think would be something that would be very uplifting and
I agree. I absolutely
provide empowerment for them.
How about the Turkish refugee women here in the United States? I know that you met a lot so far. And you've been to different states for, you know, different speeches and talks with Turkish people, Turkish newcomers. What do you think?
Oh, they're wonderful. They're beautiful. I think Turkish women are beautiful, by the way. They're absolutely beautiful. So I was...
Hey, Turkish woman, do you hear that?
So I was in Oklahoma, and I was able to visit some people in Oklahoma City and in Tulsa, and that went really well. And I met a young woman there her English was fantastic, and she does a lot of translation work.
And I know her.
You know who I'm talking about. Yes, I didn't know whether I should
Yes.
say her name or not.
You know what? I know everyone.
Yes, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. But she was very kind of paramount in bringing kind of the women together there,
Yes.
like for us to talk and for them to talk about their stories, but then how they have, you know, kind of taken those experiences and been able to use them within the community. And so I saw at one of these, I can't remember where it was exactly, if it was Oklahoma City, but where I spoke, where the majority of the women in the room were not Turkish. It was like it was a women's meeting. But you had this fantastic spread of Turkish food, of course.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
Yes, I mean, it was crazy, always crazy. I gained like 20 pounds every time I go to Greece.
Maya, don't worry about that. If you want to lose weight, please come to my house. I'm not that Turkish. Okay, don't worry about it.
So I watched these women bring in community women, and I thought, wow, you know what? That is really, really great. And if you look at a time like now, like what's happening in the United States now, bringing women together from the community of all races and cultures and backgrounds is something that you all have been doing, you know. And so
it's very important, because if you are not engaged with other people in the community, you know, so you cannot feel that you are belonging to there, and then you cannot start a new life there. You just, you know, live indoors, and that's not good,
right?
And in my department, I'm so sorry, in my department, there are women or other people from different genders, from different religions, from different parts of the world. We come together, we share together, and it's amazing, Vonya. I feel so very much empowered there. And we are sending emails each other. They know that what I'm doing outside the academy, and they say that, Hafsa, please do know that we are beside you. Whenever you need us, just let us know. That's great
power. That's the power of women, of bringing women together, you know, and fighting for, you know, for the rights of women, and for, you know, fighting against injustice, and for dignity for all people to have.
And what other amazing thing in my life is that I can text a friend maybe 1 a.m. in the morning, and or, you know, we can or 3 a.m. in the morning, saying that, okay, I'm going out to see the sunrise. Oh, who's that woman? And we can translate English or Turkish tweets each other to see what's going on there, and to, I have an idea, and I want to share it with you, with that woman. Maya, having you in my life, it's amazing. Thank you so much for being there, out there all the time.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank all of you women. I think I got some messages from women in Greece that they were going to be on today. So.
Yeah. I'm sure that there are some here. Yeah.
Oh, you know, one other thing I was going to mention that that is something too that I think is important if we can continue on doing this. So I did a class at the university where I was, specifically on human rights in Turkey. And so through that, you got a young group of people from the United States that was able to learn about all of this that has happened, right? The GM movement, the, you know, everything that's happened. And then for them to meet other young people, which is something that you certainly helped with. And they came back on their, you know, evaluations or writing about that class. And they said that was one of the most important things that they have done in school. And so I think those kinds of things, to push those things in universities and not lose some of those kinds of courses is important too.
Yeah, because I always say that actors and factors may be different, but the injustice is same everywhere. So we have to come together.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yes.
Yeah, racism here in the United States, or discrimination in Turkey. Actors are different, but they are going through the same, you know, injustice, same oppression.
Right. Yeah.
So how about your kids, Vonya?
My kids?
Yes, because I know that they are also very active.
They are. I shoot them away, so they're not here now. But
no, I mean active in that.
Active in this, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have 4 children. Bryce is my oldest, and he is actually working from home right now because of the COVID. So he works for a chemical company. And then my daughter Erica, which she went with me to Greece. Not this last time, but the time before. And so she really, this was an introduction for her into what her mom has been doing. And so of course I was talking to her all along about this. So by the time she got there, she really started to understand what these stories were and what these stories meant. And so one of the neat things is that she connected with a young girl. So she's doing English lessons or whatever with her. And I think she helps her with Turkish, which I'm taking Turkish lessons.
Oh,
I'm terrible, but I'm taking Turkish lessons. So we'll see
about this, discussion things. Okay, I'm gonna come to there. Yeah,
that's right. So Erica works for the EPA here in the United States. She's in Cincinnati, Ohio. So she's there, and then Cole.
She went there.
She did. She went to Cincinnati.
I knew that she would do. Oh,
yeah. So
how's she doing there?
She's a chemist.
No, I mean, how is she doing?
How's she doing? Oh, she's doing great. She's doing great.
Cool.
Yep, she was just home for a little while.
Okay.
So it was really nice to see her.
Yeah.
And then I live in a house full of boys right now. I have another boy that's 17 and another one that's 16. And yeah, they were in trouble this morning, so they weren't doing their chores at home.
Oh.
Yeah, so they were, but they're busy boys. They're out, in the creek and, running around right now after they do their chores.
Good luck. Good luck.
But my hope is, Haspa, is that I'm able to get, them all involved in this and knowledgeable about what's happening. So.
Oh, Maya, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And you know what? I'm explaining the audience that we have just started about to start a discussion club. Vanya will be leading the discussion. It's gonna be a English practice club, and it's kind of a pilot group that I'm working on, because if it works, I am planning to start much more groups to help Turkish people to improve their English speaking.
I think it's a great idea.
It's gonna be a very small group with 5-6 people, and we'll see how it goes. And after that, we can go ahead, right?
That sounds
good.
Excited. I'm excited.
Yes, and it's this Wednesday, right? The first.
I think so. I think.
Yeah.
I can't see my calendar, but I think it is.
I'm sure that your calendar is full of other things, but sparing time for this, it's great. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Maybe people can ask questions. Is it okay for you?
Yeah, no problem.
You remember Zevraner, your Greece friend? You see the comments?
Oh yes.
Down there?
I can see the messages. I wasn't paying attention to them before. Bonnie, great. What do you
suggest
as Turkish women to adjust here completely? You know what? I think that when it comes to adjustment, I think it's a mindset. It's a mindset of being able to almost compartmentalize a little bit in regards to, this is where I am. This is what I have. And these are the people that are around me. And so how can I best live my best life right now?
This is so important. Acceptance is very important as a first step, right, Vanya?
Yeah, right, exactly. And I think too, it's important for kids that if you have, kids, that they're able to kind of, be able to, how do I say this? They need to be able to deal with and to talk about what it is that they have been through and what they're afraid of. And the one thing that I've heard a little bit about is with COVID, that created kind of a whole nother level of trauma for mothers and children, because you're not going outside, you're not being able to leave. It's it's a fear related thing, very similar to kind of when the earthquake happened. I think yeah, in Greece, when that tended to create kind of a whole nother fear. So I think being able to talk to each other is really important.
Absolutely.
That you have the people, that you live with, or your friends that are around, and that you talk about those things, because the more you talk about that, the more that you're kind of letting that out, and you're not keeping it all inside. And then you get to a point where you're more able to be in the moment, now, rather than before, right? But you're more in the moment now, and you're able then to think more clearly about, where am I going? What is it that I need to do? But that you don't let this period of time in life be wasted for you.
Yeah. Regarding this, you have kids, teenagers mostly, so you can understand what I mean easily. How about the cultural differences and the anxiety that the parents have? Because the culture of Turkish people, the religious and traditional backgrounds, and some parents have this anxiety for their kids. What if they get lost in this new culture? What do you think about this? This is the biggest fear.
Yeah, I heard a number of stories, even here in the United States, where you have teenagers. I actually heard it more here, I would say, but
I think it's more here.
Yeah, where you would have teenagers that said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. And I think a lot of that has to do with just integrating and with feeling a part of something. So before, they were a part of their community. And now they're having to create a new community, right?
Yeah.
And so part of me says, by having teenagers myself, that there's a period of time of transition and of bucking the system, like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to, that's normal. I think that's normal for teenagers.
There's no need to be, fearful that much.
No,
right?
no need to be
cautious.
Be cautious, and then always just, continue to talk to your kids and let them know, remind them of where it is that they come from, and remind them of what it is that they stand for. Yeah. And I think by doing those things, your kids don't ever, they don't forget that. They may stray, but they will come back. Always be a positive support for them.
Absolutely. That's very important. Communication is very important.
Yeah. And it's hard too. I mean, it's really hard to integrate. I mean, think about it. They're learning new languages. I couldn't believe that, the kids in Greece, I mean, some of them know 3 and 4 languages. And so, that's a lot for a little kid, besides a new culture and still maintaining your own, culture. But it can be done.
Yeah, sure. It can be done. Sure. Maya, what uplifts you most?
A phone call from you at 3:00 in the morning.
Besides that,
I am one that feeds off of other people. Like I get my energy, I think, from learning new things about cultures, about people, and learning about conflicts, and learning about how people within those conflicts have to, rise up, I think. And so I think when even as a teacher, I feel most empowered when I see other people empowered. And that lifts me up. Anytime that I feel that somebody has gotten something that I was able to steer them to, or able to, I don't know, help in some way, that's just another kind of something else that like lifts me up.
That reminds me of an interview that I was, somebody approached me, a professor. You know her. She's gonna be a speaker, a panelist on Saturday to Sofia. Maybe I'm not sure. And she interviewed me within her academic work with the refugee women, not just Turkish one, because she's also focusing on Yemeni women, Turkish women as well. And she asked me, what uplifts you, what strengthens you, what empowers you, or what heals you. And I said that I get healed when I help people to get healed.
Yeah.
I think that's the spirit,
Yeah.
right?
And that's what I see. I mean, that's what I see in Greece. That's what I saw in Germany. People helping people, that whole community helping each other. And I think that that's something that's, very similar among the many different women that I've met. I would even say in Libya too.
Yeah,
That when we come together and we can empower each other, it empowers you even more.
somebody says that being able to talk about the problem, I think, shouldn't avoid talking about problems.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think in Greece that happens is, like I said before, like the women might live in a group of 5 other women, but they didn't know each other's stories. And so I wasn't quite sure whether that was like a cultural component or whether it was more of a protective, component. I think that's what it is. It's more of a protection.
Actually, normally Turkish women can easily talk about themselves, their experiences, but I think this is a sentiment that they feel. What if I cannot trust that person? There is a trust problem still there, out there.
Yeah, no, you're right. I didn't really think about that, but yes.
Yeah.
And so when you're, if you've been fearful because you've had to be in hiding, or because you've even had to hide from relatives, etc., at home in Turkey, and you go through this traumatic experience of crossing the Aegean Sea, and then you get over to the island and you get over to Athens. I mean, just look at how much you've been through just doing that. So that fear doesn't just go away that easily. I think it takes a lot of time. But the more we can support each other, then the better off we all are.
Yeah. Not just Turkish women should come together to support each other the way that we do together, because you are not in a traumatic period right now. So you feel better in terms of mental health. So our, exchange of, interaction is very important to empower each other as well, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. And the hard question is coming. Ready?
Okay.
You cannot, it's okay if you don't want to answer that question. I am asking a different version of this question to Turkish people that I interview here, that I chat here, especially the woman with hijab like me. So I don't know who was the first person that you met with hijab. What did you think that time about the hijab, the appearance, the meaning, the implication, and what do you think now?
Well, I should show. I've actually worn one when I was in Libya. They do it for me because I could never do it myself. But it's a little bit different. I'm terrible at doing it.
I know.
But you know what? I don't know if many people know this or not, but I grew up Mennonite. So the Mennonite, the Amish, if you're familiar with the Amish, you probably are, from Lancaster.
Oh, yeah.
So the Turkish people might not be as familiar, but the Amish are a more...
Turkish women are familiar in the United States because we are buying, butter, milk, cheese from them.
Right. But the Amish are conservative, right? And so I grew up Mennonite, so I was not conservative, right? Because the Amish broke off from the Mennonites.
Yes.
Right? And they said, you're becoming too secular. So I grew up Mennonite, was still much more conservative than many, the Methodists and Baptists and that kind of thing. So I don't think it was that unusual to me, especially like my grandmothers wore coverings.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, in Iowa and Ohio, they were from the Midwest. But so they wore coverings. And I don't think that it's ever anything that, I don't know, that I've questioned or anything like that. I think that you guys are beautiful. The scarves that you have, I think you're beautiful. And I think the reason that you wear them is beautiful too.
What's your suggestion to Turkish women with hijab or Muslim women with hijab to engage with the new culture here? Because people can sometimes be shy or, not motivated because of the, the xenophobia or, the identity problems. What's your suggestion?
Do you mean here in the United States?
Yes, mostly, yeah.
Mostly here in the U.S.?
Yeah.
I would not be fearful. I think that in looking at, like, for example, women that I've met that are from Long Island or from New York, right? You're in a metropolitan area where you see people, you know, that are covered, you know, wearing African, you know, things all over the place. So it's a little bit different. When you're in Oklahoma, then it's a little bit different. But you know what? I really believe that, you know, even my kids, like growing up in school, they're becoming more aware of these kinds of things. So then it becomes something that's not different. That makes sense?
Yes.
And I think that there might be some, maybe some fear or some hesitation. Maybe that's
not knowing that person.
Yeah, not knowing that person. But the more that you are out in the community, and the more that people get to see how beautiful and humble and kind.
That's mutual. That's mutual. You have to know us, and you have to let us know us.
Right. Exactly. And I think the group in Oklahoma did a great job of doing that. They do a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Especially in the southern places, it's much more. I was living in Georgia, you know, and it was different. It was completely different than here. Here it's, you know, very diverse in New York.
Right.
It's different. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And so I would say, you know, don't be afraid of who you are. Don't be afraid of who you are. Be who you are and be loving and kind, and you know what? Go about your business and, you know, smile at people. Although you have to wear a mask now if you're in the U.S.
You know what? When I smile, even if I'm wearing a mask, everybody can understand I'm smiling.
Because your eyes
are big here. So Vonya, that was great. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I love this.
If the audience doesn't have any questions or, you know, doesn't have anything to say, we can, you know, end here. And thank you so much, Vonya. Yeah. I will, you know, we talked about a phone conversation about the Saturday's panel. I was gonna call you after that, but my doctor just called me for a telehealth appointment. We're gonna do an appointment over here.
Oh, a tele appointment. Yeah,
it's kind of something. It's new. I don't know what's that. And after that, I'll call you today. Okay. And we're gonna talk about the details.
No problem.
Thank you so much, Vonya.
You are welcome. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. It's gonna be here in my profile, this live chat. So you'll not miss it. Okay.
Okay.